They were meant to be avenging the killing of their top commander. But Iran's all-powerful Revolutionary Guard also shot down a civilian plane. Now, a confession.
When I confirmed what had happened, I really wished I could die myself. I said I wished I could die to not witness such an event. For a lifetime we've made ourselves ready to die for the people. Today we're trading our reputation with Almighty God.
He explained why Iranian forces fired the missile, seen here as a flash of light, at the Ukrainian aircraft. They mistakenly thought it was an incoming cruise missile, launched by US forces hours after Iran struck American targets across the border in Iraq. It's an extraordinary admission of failure.
This is the cost of the mischief, information and actions of the US in the region. That night we were ready for a full-scale conflict. Unfortunately, because of the hasty actions of one person, this great disaster happened.
For Ukraine, there are questions too about its decisions. Why did authorities allow a jet to fly from Tehran at a time of such intense hostilities?
If the American side had said to us that we should abandon our flight, then maybe we should have listened to them, but it was just a normal situation. Unfortunately, what happened, you can't turn back the clock. We agree that some of the fault may be on us, but I say again, you can't predict everything that happens in life, otherwise you'd just freeze and do nothing.
Ukrainians will be relieved that Iran has come clean. For the past 5.5 years, they've had to deal with denials from Russia of involvement with the downing of another passenger jet linked to this country. Malaysia Airlines MH17 was brought down in eastern Ukraine by a surface-to-air missile allegedly fired by Russia-backed rebels. At Kiev airport, bosses of the Ukrainian airline used maps to show other civilian flights were taking off around the same time as theirs.
At the moment of the flight act from Borispol airport, we had no information on the possible threats. Up till the moment of our flight taking off from Tehran, we had no information on any possible threats.
Many questions still for Iran as it deals with the fallout. Some too, perhaps, for President Donald Trump. His order to kill Major General Qasem Soleimani prompted the Iranians to strike that night and put their air defences on alert. But in a bizarre twist of fate, the plane disaster may deal a bigger blow to Tehran and its Revolutionary Guard than any assassination. Deborah Haynes, Sky News, Kiev.
Iran vows to punish those responsible for plane crash. 4 Britons were among the 176 people killed when a Ukraine International Airlines flight crashed after taking off from Tehran. Iran's president has said the downing of a plane in Iran is an unforgivable error, and all those involved will be punished. In a televised speech on Tuesday, Hassan Rouhani added that the tragic event would be investigated thoroughly, claiming one person cannot be solely responsible for the crash. There are others, too, and I want that this issue is expressed honestly, he said, without elaborating. He continued, Iranian armed forces admitting their mistake is a good first step. We should assure people that it will not happen again, but he said his government was accountable to Iranian and other nations who lost lives. He also called for a special court to be set up to investigate, with the ranking judge and dozens of experts. This is not an ordinary case, he said. The world will be watching this court. Iran's judiciary spokesman, Gholam Hossein, has said some people have been arrested for their role in the incident on Wednesday, but he did not give any further details. Aviation officials from Iran, Ukraine and Canada are holding a meeting in Tehran to discuss the investigation into the plane crash. Ukrainian Prime Minister, Oleksiy Honcharuk, said there were 167 passengers and 9 crew members on the Ukraine International Airlines flight to Kiev. Initially, Iranian state television said flight PS-752 came down due to what it described as technical problems after leaving Imam Khomeini Airport. But after Iran admitted it had unintentionally shot down the plane, protesters took to the streets to denounce the country's clerical rulers, and riot police were deployed to face them in a third day of demonstrations on Monday. Iran's judiciary said 30 people had been detained, and that some were released. Mr. Ismaili said Iran has tolerance towards legal rallies. Britain's ambassador to Iran was arrested during the demonstrations. Rob Macaire was held on suspicion of organizing, provoking and directing radical actions, something he denied, and he was freed after more than an hour in custody. Later, he said he had gone to a vigil for the victims of the crash and left when some chanting began. Iran's ambassador to the UK, Hamid Badinjad, was subsequently summoned to the Foreign Office on Monday following the unacceptable treatment of Mr. Macaire, enabling ministers to convey their strong objections. Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab called Mr. Macaire's arrest a flagrant violation of international norms. The Iranian government is at a crossroads moment. It can continue its march towards pariah status with all the political and economic isolation that entails, or take steps to de-escalate tensions and engage in a diplomatic path forwards, he said. Boris Johnson has defended his role during the tensions with Iran, after facing criticism for not returning from his holiday immediately. "I was not in this country, but I worked very hard, as you can imagine, in making sure there was a European response," he told the BBC. The Prime Minister said Britain had played its traditional role in serving as the bridge between the European powers and the United States. He added that there was no need for Britain to have been informed before the attack, saying, "This was not our operation. There was no reason for us to be told." Mr. Johnson also called on Donald Trump to replace the Iranian nuclear deal with his own new agreement. "If we're going to get rid of it, let's replace it, and let's replace it with the Trump deal," Mr. Johnson said of the 2015 nuclear arms control deal with Tehran. "That would be a great way forward. I don't want a military conflict between us, the United States and Iran. Let's dial this thing down." 5 nations whose citizens died in the plane crash will meet in London on Thursday to discuss taking legal action against Iran, Ukraine's foreign minister said. Vadim Pristayko added that the countries will also discuss compensation and the investigation. All 176 people on board died, including 4 Britons, 52 Canadians, 82 Iranians, 11 Ukrainians, 10 Swedes, 4 Afghans and 3 Germans. There were also several children among the passengers, including an infant. Iran shot down the plane while bracing for possible U.S. retaliation for ballistic missile attack on 2 military bases housing American troops in Iraq. No one was hurt in that attack, which was carried out to avenge the assassination of Iran's top general Hassan Rouhani in a U.S. airstrike in Baghdad. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau told Global News TV that the victims of the Ukrainian plane crash would still be alive and at home with their families now if there had been no tensions in the region. According to a transcript, Mr. Trudeau claimed he did not receive a heads-up before the United States killed Soleimani. He said, "The U.S. makes its determinations. We attempt to work as an international community on big issues. But sometimes countries take actions without informing their allies." On Sunday, he attended a memorial service at the University of Alberta for the victims, alongside Premier of Alberta Jason Kenney, and David H. Turpin, President of the University of Alberta.